You wake before the light does. Your fingers move to your scalp before they move anywhere else. You're checking the front of your head for stubble. Is there any? Because if the local inspector walks through your village today and finds hair where there should be bare skin, he will not fine you. He will not warn you. He will report you, and by nightfall, you could be dead. This isn't a raid. It isn't wartime. It's an ordinary Tuesday in the Qing Empire, in the year 1750. You don't live in some small, forgettable kingdom. You live inside the largest population on Earth at that moment, close to 200 million people, spread across an empire stretching from frozen mountain passes in the west to open ocean in the east. Ruling that many people, with the roads and the ink of the 18th century, takes more than soldiers standing on every corner. It takes fear that runs on its own, without anyone having to enforce it in person. How does checking your own scalp for a death sentence become that kind of routine? For over 100 years already, it has been exactly that. Somewhere inside the empire's official law code, a document that will eventually grow to nearly 2,000 separate statutes, there's a rule with your name already written into it. You just don't know which one yet. So which law actually kills you first? To find out, you have to go back before you were born, to the hair on your head, the family you were raised in, and the neighbors you never chose. Start with the hair. In 1645, the Manchu regent Dorgan, ruling in the name of a child emperor who has just seized the old capital, issues an order that will outlive almost everyone alive to hear it read aloud. Every Han Chinese man must shave the front of his scalp and braid the rest into a single long plait down his back, a hairstyle called the Q, styled after the warriors who now govern the empire. Refuse, and it isn't read as bad grooming, it's read as rebellion. Within months, the order sweeps through province after province, faster than any single army could have marched. A saying spreads through the country, fast enough that children learn it before they learn to write. Lose your hair, keep your head. Keep your hair, lose your head. By the time you're an adult in 1750, the Q is no longer new. It has become skin, which is exactly the point of it. An empire that controls your hairline controls what you see reflected in still water every single morning of your life. But hair grows back overnight. Officials know that better than anyone. So, for all its menace, the Q was never really the deadliest law you lived under. It was only the most visible one. Underneath it sits something older and quieter. The empire's legal code, the Da Qing Lu Li. The Great Qing legal code rests on a foundation borrowed from Tang Dynasty law nearly 1,000 years earlier. A list known as the 10 Abominations. 10 categories of crime considered too dangerous for mercy. Too dangerous even for the emperor's usual power to pardon. Plotting rebellion. Damaging the imperial ancestral temples or tombs. Murdering your own parents or grandparents. Even a physician who prepared the emperor's medicine incorrectly could be charged under the same unforgivable category if the mistake looked deliberate. Here's what almost nobody expects. Several of the harshest entries on that list have nothing to do with fighting the state at all. They're about family. In your empire, loyalty to the throne and loyalty to your household are treated as the same debt. Fail one, and the law assumes you've failed both. Now widen the circle past your family, out to your street. Your empire has organized every household into small groups and grouped those units again into larger ones, each collectively answerable for the people inside it. Historians call this the Baojia system, and it runs on an old method with its own name, Lianzuofa, mutual observation. Neighbors are expected to watch one another and report what they see. If a criminal is hiding among you and nobody reports him, the punishment for hiding him can fall on everyone who knew and said nothing. Your neighbor's fear is now a weapon pointed at you. You didn't even have to do anything wrong to be standing in front of it. What would you actually do if a stranger asked to sleep in your shed tonight? So let's recreate one of your days. You're a tenant farmer outside Suzhou in the rich, crowded lower Yangtze region, deep in the long, prosperous reign of the Qianlong Emperor. Canal boats loaded with rice and silk drift past your rented paddy field before you've even finished breakfast. You rise, check your hairline out of habit, and walk toward the well at the center of the village. A clerk is nailing up a new notice, and a small crowd has already gathered because most of them can't read the characters themselves, only listen while someone else sounds them out. What could a notice possibly say that would matter this much to a yard full of farmers? 22 years earlier, in 1728, a struggling scholar named Zheng Jing wrote a single private letter urging a Qing general to rise up against Manchu rule. He never raised an army. He never lifted a weapon. He wrote a letter, and a frightened student agreed to deliver it. That was the entire crime. The historian Jonathan Spence reconstructed the case in his book, Treason by the Book, drawing on the empire's own surviving palace archives. The reviewing officials recommended the harshest sentence the code allowed. For Zheng Jing himself, execution for his adult male relatives, and exile and enslavement for the women and children left in his family. For a plot that had existed only on paper. If a letter that was never even sent to an army could be judged the same as one, what exactly was left that counted as safe to write down? The emperor at the time, Yang Zheng, chose an unusual mercy. Instead of executing Zheng Jing, he published their entire exchange as a nationwide lesson in loyalty. But Yang Zheng died in 1735, and his son, Qianlong, took the throne. The pardon didn't survive the succession. Zheng Jing was executed after all. Notice what that means for you standing at the well in 1750. Forgiveness from one emperor was never protection from the next one. So which was actually the more dangerous object sitting in your house? The sword you never owned, or the brush and paper you did? You don't know it yet, but 18 years from now, in 1768, that same fear boils over into something even stranger. A rumor spreads through villages like yours that wandering sorcerers are clipping the ends of men's queues to steal their victims' souls, and hiding paper charms carrying a stranger's name inside the walls of new buildings to drain their strength away. It isn't true. No queue-clipping sorcerer is ever reliably found. So what happens when the danger isn't even real? The historian Philip Kuhn's study of the episode, Soul Stealers, the Chinese sorcery scare of 1768, draws on the actual interrogation records to answer exactly that. Local officials, desperate to prove their own loyalty to a suspicious court, arrest, question, and in some cases, execute vagrants, beggars, and wandering monks on nothing more than accusation and panic. An entire wave of deaths built on a story nobody could prove and almost nobody dared to publicly doubt. So which law actually kills you first? Here's the twist. It was never really written down as a single law at all. The Q tells you how to look. The 10 abominations tell you who not to harm. The Baojia system tells you who to watch. But the deadliest force in your empire lives in the space between those rules, in the fact that nobody, not the farmer, not the scholar, not even the local magistrate, can ever be entirely sure where ordinary caution ends and a capital offense begins. That uncertainty isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. If you can never be sure which sentence gets you killed, what can you actually do about it? You learn to censor the sentence before anyone else has to. That instinct didn't stay behind in the Qing Empire. It just changed its material. You no longer touch your scalp before dawn to check whether you'll survive the day. But how many times have you reread a message before sending it? Not because it was wrong, but because you couldn't be completely sure how it would land on someone who wasn't in the room. How many times have you deleted something true because it might travel further than you meant it to someone who judged only the fragment and never the whole? In the Qing Empire, at least, a rumor could fade if no official ever picked it up. Today, the words you choose rarely fade at all. The Q order needed an actual inspector standing in your village. What replaced it doesn't need anyone standing anywhere. It only needs you to imagine that someone might be. You wake before the light does, in a world your Qing ancestors would barely recognize. Your fingers still move to something before they move anywhere else. Not your scalp anymore, your phone. And somewhere in the gap between what you feel and what you're about to say out loud, an old patient question is still waiting for its answer. Is this the sentence that finally gets you?